Caledonian McBrain and the Big Light present
Falcha, I'm Coinneach Macleod, the Hebridean Baker. Originally from the Isle of Lewis, I'm an author, TV presenter and travel blogger. I spend lots of time travelling around the world, discovering amazing places and the people who live there. But my favourite place is home, the Hebrides, making me your perfect guide to the very best things to do, see, eat and enjoy throughout the incredible islands on the west coast of Scotland. Welcome to Scottish Island Adventures. In this episode, I'm taking you to the magnificent Isle of Mull. With abundant marine and wildlife, sensational foodie produce and a busy cultural calendar, it's the second largest of the Inner Hebrides. I took the short Calmac ferry journey from Oban to Coinneach, just south of the colourful capital, Tobermory. Coming up, I head off on a wildlife safari with a difference on the Hebridean Whale Trail. I hook a line with the Tobermory Fish Company and spin a yarn or two with the Isle of Mull weavers. But before all that, I'm incredibly excited to introduce my guest, Colin MacIntyre. Colin is a highly acclaimed, multi-award-winning author, playwright and singer-songwriter, known best as Mull Historical Society. Colin, I'm so pleased to have you as a guest in this episode. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Coinneach. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm always happy to talk about Mull.
I'm delighted to hear it. We're going to be doing plenty of that. Now, you're in your studio in Mull right now, and you've made your life and your passion staying on the island. What has kept you on the island?
Well, I come and go from the island. The island, I think, creatively, culturally, and just the environment has always played into everything I do. And I never really imagined I was going to call my musical identity after the island. But I think probably the thing more than anything is the folklore and just the storytelling. And I come from that sort of tradition. My grandfather was the Bard of Mull, Angus MacIntyre, the poet on Mull, but also the bank manager for 30 years. So in some ways, it was just always stories, and I like to tap into that. And it feels like an endless source, really.
And it's a real destination, isn't it, Mull? There's so many visitors that come from across the world to see this beautiful island. What's the magic of Mull?
Well, I would say the magic of Mull for me is the people and the landscape. And I think I'm obviously biased, but I think Mull has got just a bit of everything. It's got Tobermory, probably one of the most beautiful seafronts, towns, colourful places in Scotland. But yet it's got Benmore, over 3,000 feet mountain. We have the south end of the island, which is much more barren and less populated, and that leads to Iona. And then we have the kind of west coast, which is the Atlantic coast, which is my favourite part of Mull, despite coming from Tobermory, from the big city on the island. I love the west coast and the beaches and just that look out to the Atlantic and imagining, what's out there next. But I think, that's the kind of geography, but the people, you always feel very welcome. And culturally, there's always a very strong sort of creative thread running through the fabric of life on Mull.
Driving through Mull, the landscape really does capture you, but so does the wildlife as well, doesn't it? On land and on the sea.
Yes, I have always loved that aspect. And I think in my kind of lifetime, Coinneach, that has really grown more, the wildlife. And recently was out whale watching. I was out watching golden eagles diving into the lochs for their lunch. And so, yeah, it's, the eagles, the sea life, and the whale watching is something that has grown hugely in the last, I would say, 20, 25 years in Ireland, and I would highly recommend it.
Well, when we mention whale watching, most of you probably imagine yourself out at sea, tracking the waters from a boat. But the Hebridean Whale Trail is doing things quite differently. With a focus on accessibility and protecting the environment, participants scanned the seas from land at various sites across a carefully planned trail. I grabbed my binoculars and met up with Siobhan, the Visitor Experience Officer, to discover more about how the Hebridean Whale Trail has become a pioneering force in ecotourism. I'm walking down the colourful main street of Tobermory, and it's such a lovely atmosphere. This bay filled with wee boats and big boats, creels stacked up, and I'm off to meet Siobhan from the Hebridean Whale Trail. Siobhan, so great to meet you. Thanks for inviting me to the store.
You're very welcome. It's lovely to have you here.
Siobhan, tell us a little bit about the Hebridean Whale Trail.
So the Hebridean Whale Trail is a network of fantastic whale watching and whale heritage sites right across Scotland's west coast. It goes all the way from Isle of Iona down in the Clyde right up to Cape Wrath and as far west as St Kilda, which is pretty incredible. The idea is that it's an accessible way for everybody to have incredible wildlife encounters, to discover things about Scotland's west coast, slow down, spend a bit of time here and have a look out to sea. So the trail was set up by the Hebridean Whale and Dolphin Trust, and our base is here in Tobermory, or Ballamory, as some of your listeners might know it. We've got our Hebridean Whale Centre that we're in at the moment, and there's lots of great information in here. I'll just have to reach into my Tupperware lunchbox full of. Now, what do you think of this?
I'm going to actually guess it might be a tooth. Is it?
Very right, yes.
Oh, wow. But a significantly sized one. I mean, it's nearly the size of my hand.
So this is the tooth of a sperm whale. Wow. Yeah, absolutely enormous. One of the things that I always think is really, really interesting is this stuff here. Do you have any idea what that could be?
Goodness. No, I literally have no idea.
So we've just been looking at a sperm whale tooth, but not all whales have teeth. So blue whales, minke whales, fin whales, they don't have teeth at all. They have this stuff in their mouth. Right. So it's called baleen. And all these hairs create a kind of sieve so that they can have huge amounts of fish in one gulp without needing to swallow any seawater.
That sounds like me. I think I need that when I'm eating a lot of cake. But I was very lucky. I was getting the ferry down from Barra to Oban a couple of days ago. Could there have been dolphins? You know, what do you think I might have seen on that route?
That is an amazing route.
Is.
You get a lot of really fantastic sightings. Just in the past couple of days from that kind of area, we've had minke whales, we've had bottlenose dolphins, we've had common dolphins, we've had harbour porpoises. Quite often from ferries, what we see are common dolphins. They're very, very fast, jumping out of the water, and they love to play around boats. So it could have been them.
It could have been, yeah.
So we have an app called Whale Track. It's a community of citizen scientists, and if you do see a whale or a dolphin, you can report that into us, and that helps our growing body of evidence to kind of inform researchers and policymakers of just how important the West Coast is. So it's a great way for people to get involved.
And you must get the most amazing stories from folk who come in to see you and tell you what they've seen.
Absolutely. I actually had a call just earlier this morning from someone I know, and just off Skye, he has seen 2 killer whales today.
Oh my goodness.
They're 2 killer whales that we know really well as well. So one of the males, John Coe, we've actually been monitoring him since 1980. He's got a very, very distinctive fin. And just today, he's up off the Isle of Skye saying hi to my friend George.
I love that. Coming into your centre here in Tobermory, there's lots of stories and information on the walls.
So the wall we're standing at the moment talks about the West Coast community of killer whales. They're a really, really unique population of killer whales that are seen predominantly here on the west coast of Scotland. The first one we managed to match is actually from 1977. Mm-hmm. So our scientists looked at the unique shape of that fin and matched it to some really old shaky news footage of a killer whale that swam up a river in Ireland. Here, we call him Comet, but in 1977, after he swam up a river, they called him Dopey Dick.
I think I prefer their name.
It is quite a good one. But my favourite one, John Coe, he's got this really distinctive big chunk taken out of his fin, and he was the one that was seen today just off Skye.
That's amazing. And the first sighting was in 1980.
Yeah.
Some, of course, very sadly kind of got washed up in some of the islands. So why would that happen?
So in 2016, one of the females from this same pod washed up on the Isle of Tiree. Now, really sadly, she died of entanglement. So she was caught in a fishing rope and she drowned. But that's quite rare for killer whales. It's quite common to be seen in species like minke whales, but killer whales are very intelligent, very mobile, and not usually at risk of entanglement. So the Scottish Marine Animal Stranding Scheme carried out a necropsy. So they studied Lulu to find out more about her and about the health of that pod, because we've been monitoring them since 1980 and they've never had any young in that time. Now, Lulu was probably in her 30s and unfortunately she was infertile. Taking measurements, they found that she was actually the most polluted marine mammal ever found anywhere in the world. Wow. So the big problem with killer whales is PCBs, so polychlorinated biphenyls. Unfortunately, these cause infertility and they cause neurological problems. Now, the really frustrating thing is here in the UK, we banned them in the 80s, but unfortunately, they're still very prevalent in the marine environment. And because killer whales are apex predators feeding right at the top of the food chain, they're getting a really highly concentrated dose of these toxins. So when I was on Skye and came across a Gaelic proverb, now I'm not going to try and pronounce it for you. I will give you a written copy and you as a native Gaelic speaker can maybe say it for your listeners. But it means the sea wants to be visited. And I think it's a really lovely, I love it too. It kind of speaks to the call of the sea for the people that live on these islands, wanting to kind of earn their living and adventure and explore from here, but also that kind of two-way relationship between people who live on islands and the marine world around them. That's really what makes this area special, this long connection that the people here have had with the sea, and this relationship and how the Gaelic culture views the sea and views these islands has just been such an important part of what we do. I've just seen out the window that I think possibly the rain has stopped. So shall I get you a pair of binoculars and let's go and see if we can spot anything?
I would love that, Siobhan. Come on.
Off we go.
So, Siobhan, where are you going to take us to?
Well, I don't think we have to go very far at all. Can you see just in the mouth of the bay, that's Cave Island.
Okay.
And if we look out in that direction, really, really good place to spot some harbour porpoises. It is pretty flat calm out there.
It is.
Which is good for spotting. Something like a harbour porpoise, which is really small. It's quite tough to spot if there's any kind of wave.
I'm just following the path of that wee fishing boat that's coming in just now, because I just imagine they probably quite like to follow them.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, I got distracted while you were talking because a little shag flew across. Quite dark bird flying very close to the surface of the water. I think I've got a seal. You can see the chap fishing on the end of the pier.
Yes.
Just to the right of that, a little further out, there's what will look like just like a grey dot in the water.
Am I looking at the yellow buoys?
Further out than that, so closer up.
Oh, I can see him.
Little head popping up.
Yes, just behind that yellow buoy, there he is. I think he's definitely keeping an eye on what that fisherman's up to. Colin, wasn't it so inspiring hearing the stories from Siobhan?
Really, really lovely to hear. I can really vouch for a lot of those experiences, seeing the minke whales and the dolphins when you get them running in packs either side of the tour boats. It's just something really special. I can speak from personal experience as being a Mulloch. That's a native of Mull, by the way.
Yes.
Coinneach. I'm born on Mull. Most people in the island seem to be born in Oban, but my mum didn't quite make it that far.
Is that right?
But like of my daughters, and people that I bring to Mull with my music or whatever it may be, they love the interaction with the sea. I love that line, the sea wants to be visited. And in Tobermory, beside the building you visited, they actually have the first catch and release aquarium just off the pontoon. So people visiting can catch sea life and it will be taken care of in the aquarium, and
That's
then
amazing.
they will release them back into the sea. Yeah, so we're quite proud of that being the first in Europe. And my daughter spent most of their time on the pontoon crabbing and all the rest of it. So it never seems to lose its thrill relief, and long may that continue until they're older. But I think, yeah, I love lovely piece, and just to hear how that's thriving on the island.
Well, for more information, including a complete spottish guide and a schedule of events, head to whaletrail.org or simply visit calmac.co.uk. Now, I have to say, Colin, I've been listening to your music for, well, I want to say 20 years or more now, but I'm kind of aging you.
Yeah, that means I've been making it that long then.
As the Mull Historical Society, obviously that's how many people got to know you first in all your kind of creative ways. But when was the first album you released?
Yeah, so the first album, Coinneach, was Lost, my debut album. So that was, I just turned 21.
Wow.
It was reissued actually early in the year with my first 3 albums, like in a box set of everything I put out in those first 4 years. Yeah, it's still one I'm proud of, and it was really nice to revisit in this way.
Tell us about the influences, or what did inspire you to create this wonderful music?
I mean, the name itself comes from the real Mull Historical Society, who are an organisation on the island. And I happened to be home from studying in Glasgow and turned behind me and saw that in the Aris Hall in Tobermory, the AGM for the Mull Historical Society was taking place that night. So I just imagined this organisation kind of running an island. I was studying Orwell in 1984 and whatnot at the time, and I kind of just let my imagination run wild, and that became the name that I would choose to release under, because the first song was called Mull Historical Society, and that was the one that kind of got picked up by Radio 1 and NME and MTV and whatnot. So yeah, it just all transported my music in a way that I could only have dreamt of, kind of off the island, but somehow I feel like I've kind of stayed on the island. And the real Mull Historical Society are now called Mull Historical and Archaeological Society, so they can be looked out. And if you're still following this, my recent collection I actually called Archaeology, just to kind of nod to their new name. But after about a year of me releasing, they decided to make a distinction, but relations between both bodies are quite good. With my new album, which is called In My Mind There's a Room, it's tapped in a way that I could probably never even have imagined. And that I mentioned earlier, my grandfather was the island's kind of bard and bank manager. And the bank flat, if anyone visits, you'll see it's a kind of turret building above the bank in Tobermory Main Street, quite an unusual kind of building. But very surprisingly to me, last year, that flat was turned into a recording studio. But I'd wanted to bring I've had 3 books out now, my 4th book's out next year, and I wanted to bring my kind of writing side and my music side together. So I decided I would reach out to some of my favourite authors and explain what I've just explained to you in a kind of email, that I was going to get the chance to make an album in my grandfather's flat, the room that he wrote his poetry in. So I asked my authors if they would come up with words on a significant room to them.
Amazing.
That I would then record in this significant room to me. So
I love that.
Yeah, it's been just a magical experience to actually make it at home and for it to then go out into the world.
Well, it's so inspiring. And again, the fact that so many of your stories came from your grandfather or your landscape is just absolutely fantastic. The Tobermory Fish Company is an award-winning, family-run business going back 3 generations. The company is now run by Sally, whose grandparents opened the business 50 years ago. And I visited the smokehouse myself to see the smoking process in action and get a taste of their unique produce. We've driven north from the ferry and we've arrived in Tobermory, and I'm outside the Tobermory Fish Company and I'm off to meet Sally. Hi Sally, how are you?
Hello,
Good to see
how are
you.
you?
I am very well. What a beautiful shop you have.
Thank you. Do you want to go upstairs and have a chat?
That sounds good to me. Sally, we're in Tobermory. It's been a working harbour for centuries, has it not?
Yeah, well, Tobermory was actually built as a fishing village in the 1700s, and a lot of people don't know that. If you go down to the outsider shop, the big picture that's outside is, I mean, it must be from the 1800s, 1900s, and that shows Tobermory as its true, fishing village that it started with.
Now, tell me, is it your grandparents that opened the shop in the 70s?
So my grandma and grandpa, Hugh and Marjorie Goldie, they founded the fish company in 1971. They wanted to grow their own trout, and they started that in a stream in their back garden on Tobermory Main Street, actually. And they'd have tiny little trout, and they'd grow to a certain size, and then they'd move up to go to Arras Park, which is just across the water, go into cages and get bigger and bigger. And they did this for a number of years. They kind of couldn't really compete with the bigger fish farms around the west coast of Scotland and around the UK. So they were thinking how they can add value to their little stock of trout that they were hand growing. And this is really where Tobermory smoked trout was born. And they trialled and tested lots of recipes, and still to this day, it's under lock and key, their Tobermory smoked trout recipe.
Because that is what you're really famous for, isn't it? Here is the smoked trout.
Yeah, people come for the smoked trout. Our smoked salmon is really good as well, but the smoked trout it's been described as the best smoked salmon someone's ever tasted, but it's trout. It's almost like their little secret, and they come back and they're like, we bought this at Christmas, and my grandparents were on your grandparents' mailing list, and fortunately they've passed away now, but we want to be on your mailing list. And it's a really it's like a family, all these people who love the Tobermory smoked trout. So that's what I love about it. When my grandparents started smoking trout, it was very much a family business. And back then they would have racks of smoked salmon just all over the shop, people walking in, people just like touching everything. And now obviously it's a different story. But I remember every Sunday, and we still every Sunday have Tobermory smoked trout, soft brown bread, lemon, going over to my grandparents' house after Sunday school and just devouring smoked trout as young kids.
Why do you think the waters around the Hebrides are just the best for fish and shellfish?
The cool, clear waters of the Hebrides is just, we can only deal with good quality produce, and that is how you get the flavour, you get the taste, you get the consistency of the end product, and it's purely down to the waters around Mull and up the Hebrides.
Sally, the smell of the smoked trout is coming up the stairs, but I really want to go and visit the smokehouse. Can we go down and see that?
Yeah, for sure.
Sally, there is a table filled with stunning fish here.
So this is where the fish comes in. Our wee babies will lie under their sugar and salt mix for, a
So what is this? I'm seeing this. So they're topped with a mix of salt, sugar,
well, I can't
and
tell
some
you.
things.
He's trying to get my recipe. Salt and sugar, and that's all you need to know.
Okay, fine.
And then they'll lie there for a period of time, and then they'll get washed down and go into Betsy here that's churning away nicely. So
I'm really excited to see the finished product and head into your shop to see what else you're selling.
yeah, let's go and taste some.
Sally, this shop is stunning.
It was the same for 10 years. And then my good friend Banjo Beale came into my life. So Banjo has a show called Designing the Hebrides. He has totally renovated our shop, and now it has a new lease of life. People come in the shop and they comment on how, aesthetically pleasing it is, and we love it.
So tell us what you've got here.
So we have got the Tobermory smoked trout. I just like it with a wee oat cake and some lemon, or, just fresh bread, as simple as it can be.
Okay, I'm going to give it a try.
Okay.
Sorry, that's amazing. The look of it, the taste, the texture, it's just absolutely perfect. You've sold me. I don't think I will go back to smoked salmon. It absolutely melts in the mouth. Mm-hmm. The flavour is lovely. I still can't believe you're not giving me the recipe for the smoked.
Never. My husband doesn't even know what it is.
Well, Sally, this has been amazing. I've loved my wee trip to the most famous fish shop in the Hebrides.
Thank you so much for coming. See you later.
Well, we may never know the secret recipe of Sally's smoked trout, but what's in no doubt is the absolutely incredible taste. It really is a must try when you're on Mull. Colin, there's a great foodie scene on Mull, isn't there?
Oh, there really is. Yeah, Sally's a great girl, and as you could tell there and from your visit, it really is kind of great restaurants. We have Cafe Fish, which is the old Calmac ticket office on the new pier, as we call it, in Tobermory, and that really has an international reputation. But yeah, what people at Sally are doing, and we've got the kind of Mull organic biscuits, Joe and the Reed family, who was in my class at school. So there's just lots of great produce that is made locally, but reaches far and wide.
Well, to order some of the delicious products from Tobermory Fish Company, including gift boxes, visit tobermoryfish.co.uk or simply visit calmac.co.uk.
Every Scottish island in your bucket list. Every sunrise, every waterfall, every bird song, every seashell, every stroll along the edge of the world, every new friend you make, every dance, every dram, every downpour, every crackling campfire, every sparkling night sky, every feast under harbour lights, and every photo under that red Calmac funnel. Every moment, every memory, every journey starts a story. And you can start yours at calmac.co.uk.
We're teaming up with Beatson Cancer Charity, an incredible organisation making a significant impact across the west of Scotland. Their vital work depends on the generosity of people like you. Beatson Cancer Charity provides a wide range of essential services to cancer patients and their families. From complementary therapies to specialised health and work support, they offer a lifeline during some of life's toughest moments. If you want to get involved, head over to beatsoncancercharity.org/donate. Your help means the world to those who need it most. The Isle of Harris Distillery is the social distillery, proudly built in the heart of their island community to create sustainable employment for local men and women. With a peat fire burning year-round, a warm outer Hebridean welcome is always assured. And a dram of the award-winning Isle of Harris gin and elemental single malt whisky the Heroch awaits. 2 spirits, 1 purpose. To learn more about the distillery's story or to order a bottle or 2, visit harrisdistillery.com. Sláinte. Colin, I loved the fact that you set your first book, The Letters of Ivor Punch, on Mull. Was that intentional? Did you always know that was going to be the case?
Yeah, I mean, I was really interested in focusing on creating this narrative on the island, Coinneach. I mean, and in some ways, it could have been any island. It is Mull, but I like this idea of what can the mainland really learn from an island in terms of community and that kind of infrastructure, and how the mainland kind of contrasts with an island. And my book is very much kind of about that idea of the fabric of an island and sort of intergenerational tales, but also how they hopefully tell bigger pictures, by focusing in on these kind of individual characters. Ivor Punch himself is a retired sergeant of the island, and he has lost somebody in the Lockerbie disaster, and he is trying to find out why that happened. And he's really dealing with grief. And there's lots of interlinked characters, but he starts writing these letters to various people thinking maybe they can help, and one of whom is President Obama, mentioning the White House, because it was the present day of the novel was 2008 when there was that tug of war over the alleged the release on compassionate grounds of the alleged bombers. So he kind of thinks as being the leader, former sergeant of his island of Mull, he's equivalent to the leader of the free world, and it's all about that thing of smallness, but hopefully can also paint a bigger picture. My new novel is a crime novel called When the Needle Drops, which is actually Ivor younger, kind of in the role, actually trying to solve a crime on Mull. But the storytelling and is always there, and one little nugget that is a scene within my novel, but is a true story, was some of your listeners might want to take in the Mull Rally, the car rally, which is the very end of the tourist season of Mull in October. And one time when I was out in the middle of the night, spectating, waiting for the cars to come, a local sort of under torchlight told me that he was driving through the Glen in Mull, which is the kind of Glenbellet Road, which goes right across the middle of Mull. And it was a lashing wet night, and he saw somebody hitchhiker out, middle of winter, put his hand out. He stopped. This guy got in, slightly odd person, not really talking very much. He dropped him off at the other side of the Glen in Salin. And then it wasn't until he got home that night he realised what the odd thing was, is that the person was bone dry.
Oh.
And they'd been standing out in this kind of wet road all night. Imagine being 15 years old getting told that on a hillside while you're trying to watch the Mull Rally. So I kind of used a lot of these stories to kind of weave a narrative. And it's that thing they say, fact is often weirder and more interesting than fiction. And there's a lot of the landscape and the local folklore that I've always wanted to tap into.
Mull has such a fantastic creative scene. But for visitors who are coming to the island, how can they tap into that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I am one small part of that. There's lots of amazing events that happen. There's the Togmorrie Book Festival, which is also in October. So that actually comes just after the rally. We try and bring authors, some, big name authors from off the island to the island, but also we celebrate local writers. There's the Mull Music Festival, which happens at the beginning of the season. So if we kind of go from October back to kind of April, and that's great. It's mainly a traditional music festival, but I played my first Mull Historical Society gig back home at the festival, which was a very messy affair. But it had to be done. And then there's Mendelssohn on Mull, which happens right in the middle of the summer. Famously, Felix Mendelssohn wrote his Hebridean Overture, Sailing by Mull and by Fingal's Cave. So that's another great event in terms of kind of classical music scene. And then Antober, which is the old school, which is a great arts centre. And there's also a Mull and Iona arts trail. You talked about the wildlife trail earlier. So there's an arts trail which people can research and plot their stay along the art trail. You can take in local artists, potters, musicians, writers. And finally, the studio I mentioned that was my grandfather's old flat is now called Turret Studios. So, a year on, it's now a functioning studio. And if you go and buzz the buzzer behind the bank, Gordon MacLean will be more than happy to have you up. And many people have left making an EP or recording a song in Mull that wasn't part of the plan when they arrived, so that you can actually go to Mull and make things as well as appreciate things that's happening.
I love that. Maybe a wee Gaelic duet album. What do you think, Colin?
Oh, I'm more than happy. I mean, there's talk of Room 2 already, Coinneach. So yeah, you teach me how to cook, and I'll do a wee bit of songwriting with you.
Clever. Ardalanish is a weaving mill and working cattle and sheep farm on the Isle of Mull. On-site weavers use Hebridean sheep fleece from the farm's own livestock to give the woven products their signature hues. I met with two weavers, Monica and Dave, to learn more about the weaving process and try my hand at the loom. How you doing?
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Yeah.
What
Very
a place. I feel like you got every texture, and it's like a bounty of tweed in here, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what we love. We just tell everyone, come in, touch everything, throw it around, because textiles have to be touched, that's what it's about.
So you can buy the wool, you can buy the kits for knitting, you can buy the tweeds. And you've got some beautiful those blankets are stunning, aren't they?
Yeah. Myself and Dave, we work full-time year-round. That supplies the shop. I like the middle one on the side. So it's the blue's woad, and then the yellow is the win, the gorse flowers.
Gorgeous. I'd love to go and visit where you make all this. Shall we go and have a look?
Let's go in the mill.
Okay.
Right.
What a place you have here. I'm trying to kind of imagine what it'd be like to work here. You've got the bobbins working here, you've got the looms. What a wonderful place you have.
Micro heritage industrial is our little line
I love
of
that.
what we do. Yeah.
Tell us a wee bit about the farm, our Danilish farm.
So the farm's 1,500 acres and we have deer, Highland cows and Hebridean sheep. We've got about 250 ewes. They thrive here, they like it. And we farm for their meat as well. So it's
and what
good.
about the wool then?
So the wool is black. It's more than black. It's got a lot more depth and colour into it than that. But you can only make black things with black wool, and I think that's why people don't have them so much, because your options get a bit limited. So we do buy in fleece from other farmers as well.
The history of weaving on Mull goes back so long. Tell us a wee bit about it.
Yeah, so we're industrial. There's never anything like this on Mull, but it was small and it was local. Between here and Benesson, I think there were 4,000 people, pre-clearances. So I live in Arton and there's a house there, it's called the Weaver's Cottage. It's an old stone house with a red tin roof, and that was milk and black. If you didn't spin your fleece yourself, his sisters spun the fleece and Malcolm wove your cloth. His looms in his kitchen and he's weaving away everyone's cloth. So it was a great Cayley house as well, because you've got to hang around and wait for your cloth.
Now, I'm sure you have a good few chats and Cayley's in here as well, Monica. Describe to me the different machinery that's here.
So our looms came to Mull with a couple from Yorkshire, Bob and Kathy Ryan. Bob told me he worked in a mill in Huddersfield where he had 500 of these looms on one floor.
You talked about the fact that with the Hebridean sheep, it's going to be black wool, but there is obviously many ways and traditional ways on the island where wool was dyed. Tell us a little bit about the processes you're using for that.
Yeah, our main colour range is undyed wool. Okay, so we've got the Hebrideans, and then so this is what we buy in. So we buy in Shetland, so that's white, and at the moment we're using Moorit for a brown, which is also a Shetland. So we only use native breed wools. So we blend those, and we have a huge colour range, all those tones through the greys and browns to the black and back to the white again. And that's the traditional colours. But we do, dye yarn as well.
I'm intrigued. I can see just over in the corner all these wools in the different colours. Can we go over and have a look at these?
Yeah, absolutely. There's loads going on here. A good percentage of this pile is solar dyes. So each year I put the yarn in a big glass jar with the plant material, fill it up with water and leave it outside for the summer in the garden. You're dyeing without any energy, you've got no fumes, and they come out all quite different.
They're stunning. Yeah, I mean, they're all different shades of yellows and greens and pinks. Because I certainly remember in the old days growing up, my mother was a Harris tweed weaver and my brother took on the loom as well, and there was heather used or dandelions or dock roots. What are some of your favourite things to use?
Yeah, so I use a lot of heather and dock. Meadowsweet at the moment is in flower, so I need to go and get meadowsweet.
So much meadowsweet out.
And bog myrtle. And the crottle. It's a lichen that contains a dye stuff. And the slow growing as well. So we just gather off the farm here, and we might go and do a crottle gather once every 18 months, every 2 years, and we get this fantastic golden orange.
Yes, the golden orange is the one that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, but I don't have it all the time. It's not on the shelf, you can't just go and get it, so we're working seasonally with what I dye with. We don't try to be repeatable, or we don't make the same thing over and over again, because we always have different colours. This is my woad seed.
Oh, that's wood, right.
Yeah, so every second year the plant will seed. So I always don't harvest it all, I leave some for seed. So that's my seed for the following year.
And this is going to bring you the blues, is that right?
Yeah. And then over here I've got weld.
And I'm just seeing here, Dave, your colleague. Dave, you're nearly part of the the loom here. You're sitting inside. Tell us what you're up to just now, Dave.
There's 1,362 threads, and I'm joining them one at a time.
So you have to hand connect every single one of those, don't you?
That's right, yeah. So it's like a special twist rather than a knot. It's a bit of a magic trick, really.
It is a bit of a magic trick. I kind of feel that it would take me about an hour to do one, and you'll have already finished by the time I've done one of them. There's certainly in Gaelic a lot of traditional songs are around the storyline of weaving. The sounds that come from the loom, that must be very much part of that as well.
Yeah, you can't help but hum along and tap your foot when they're running. You know, even some of just the monotonous whirring of the bobbin winders. You're there, sort of bobbing your head, and I'm certainly always humming a tune to myself. Yeah,
the sound of the bobbin machine is quite a familiar one for me as well. When my brother was a Harris tweed weaver, I used to get 1 pence for every bobbin I did. I'm hoping the salaries have got a bit better since then, have they?
Yeah, it's nice that our bosses don't pay us per yard or per knot in this case.
So, Monica, when people come to visit the farm and particularly come to visit you, what can they expect to see?
So they spend a bit of time in here having a look at the mill, and we always stop and chat to people. People love the dye garden as well, and they can see the solar dyes as well outside. It's been so great to visit again and to just get this insight into the journey from the Hebridean wool all the way to those beautiful blankets and pieces of tweed that you've got in the shop. Thanks so much, Monica and Dave. It's been amazing. It's been lovely to see you.
Thank you. Yeah. Pleasure.
I really love the sound of the looms working away there. It's so therapeutic. To learn more about the story of our Dallanish farm and order products from the farm and mill shop, visit ourdallanish.com or simply visit calmac.co.uk. Now, Colin, if you were advising travellers one last thing they simply must do when visiting Mull, what would that be?
Right, well, as a Mulach, I've got one answer for you, but my wife is a New Yorker, so I'm thinking of people from away as well and the things that she loves about Mull. And her thought as well was, having loved Sally's smoked trout, she loves the wildlife, but also recently did a little tour of Tobermory Distillery and absolutely loved that as well. I thought I knew everything about Mull, but actually we had a great little tour around the distillery, and that's highly recommended. Tobermory, Sally pointed to earlier, Coinneach, Tobermory was founded in 1788. Guess how long it took us to have a distillery?
Go on.
10 years. 1798, the distillery founded. So I would say that's just a great experience, and you get a wee dram into it. And if you just go along the seafront a little bit, go around the cliff face, and on the cliff face are the letters in big white, the words in big white letters, God is love. I'm just going to leave you with that. That's another wee bit of folklore. You might have to ask a few locals why those letters are there, but have a dram first.
I will. Well, that's amazing. Colin, it's been so special having you on this episode and just hearing your creative passions, but also your passion for the island of Mull. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Coinneach.
Well, that's all from this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, like, rate, review, and share with your friends. For show notes and more information on this and all my other island destinations, plus full details on Caledonian MacBrain's routes, timetables, prices, and bookings, go to calmac.co.uk. Every journey starts a story, so book your Caledonian MacBrain island adventure now.
Our friends at Folk on Foot have a podcast that we think you'll enjoy. Here's a wee taster.
I'm Matthew Bannister. On my award-winning podcast, Folk on Foot, we travel the length and breadth of the UK and Ireland, taking you to the most extraordinary places.
The ancient pagan Celts used to call places like Sandwood thin places. Places where the distance between heaven and earth was very short.
As we walk and talk with the finest folk musicians, you'll be immersed in landscape, history, and the natural world.
In English lore, the curlew is one of the 7 whistlers, along with the golden plover, which is another bird you would hear here. Here he comes, gosh, he's so close. Amazing.
And recorded in each location, there is always beautiful, transcendent music.
Would you search through the loamy earth for me? Climb through the briar and bramble.
There are more than 60 glorious episodes of Folk on Foot for you to discover wherever you get your podcasts. So start your escape into our world now.
From the Big Light Studio